do you make the scary doll sounds for Chucky?
All right, you ready?
I think so.
Okay, here it comes. You want to see what prop is that I use? My magic gold dog. So every time Chucky runs, or if he does a turn, or if his eyes just go to the left or the right, that's this little gold dog saved my life, and he makes all those sounds for Chucky.
Ellen Heuer, welcome to Cora's world.
It's both our worlds right
That's
now.
right, I'll
Yes,
say.
that's a good one. I like that.
Cora's World, it's called Cora's World, and we're here in Cora's World.
What's Foley?
Foley is a very rarefied form of sound effects that's performed in a controlled environment on a Foley stage. So most people think that when they're watching a movie that all those sounds are happening in real time, but a lot of times they're shooting it without any sound at all. When the film is done, it comes back to me and I put all the sound back in while I'm watching it in sync to the picture. So if someone's running, I'm actually running in my shoes and I have to replace every single footstep in perfect sync. Then we go back and we do what's called all the props. And the props are usually anything that is connected to the actor's activity. So if they set down a teacup or a wine glass, punch someone or get stabbed, I'll take some celery and break it for like bones crunching. And then I'll squish a grapefruit or maybe a wet chamois for blood dripping. And you put those two things together and you have the sound of like a gaping wound sound. So, because I can't literally stab my partner, right? Although I'd like to sometimes, but I can't. So I got to make something up. I got to be creative and think of another way to do it.
How long does it take for you to finish doing Foley?
It depends on the show, hon. It could take anywhere, if it's a big feature, especially if it's animated, because animation is almost all Foley. But if it's live action, it depends. It could take 1 day for a TV show or 3 weeks for a feature.
How long have you been a Foley artist?
I've been a Foley artist for almost 45 years. I started when I was 23. I was a dancer, like you. I was dancing in a stage play that I was choreographing called Finian's Rainbow, and I was dancing the part of Susan the Silent, who was a girl who couldn't speak. She could only dance what she wanted to say. It's totally fun. And during the run of the show, I met somebody. I said I was kind of tired of being a poor dancer. And she said, come and do this thing with me. I just seemed to have a knack for it. I got lucky and just started working immediately on big movies. And being able to have the background as a dancer and a musician helped me a lot, because you do memorize, you develop a part of your brain where you memorize choreography. So watching actors was a walk in the park compared to some of the choreography I had to learn back then.
What's all this stuff on the table?
Well, these are different props for different things. This grass, this is bubbles for your goldfish. You'd be a very big goldfish, but this is a wet chamois, and I use this all the time. It could be anything from a nice thick spaghetti sauce to brain surgery. Sometimes if it's, a Western, I'll use this for each footstep. If it's a cowboy, and if it's animation, sometimes that makes a funny sound.
Mike's as well.
What would you use that for?
A baby toy.
Sometimes we use slinkies.
What's this? Oh,
What do you think?
a bird.
A bird's wings, yes.
I did not like that sound.
What would you use this for? Yes. Bones crunching for sure. Could guess some sounds.
Oh no.
Well, I have one sound. This is a little bit of a test. What do you think it sounds like, or what do you think it could be used for? Okay? What does your imagination conjure up with that sound, Cora? It could be anything. There's no right or wrong.
Wet rubber?
Wet rubber, that would work. Anything else come to mind?
Plastic?
Plastic, okay. How about an old rocking chair?
Oh.
How about a rope creaking?
Ooh.
Possibly, huh? Who would have thought that would come out of a bunch of... You want to see what it is?
I knew it.
And then this is just kind of an interesting squeaking sound. They might use this for something just to create a sort of atmosphere.
Those are snacks?
They're not snacks. You should never eat your Foley props, but this is another way that I might do some bone crunching, just to go.
Oh!
That's a perfect reaction. This for grass. It's just 1/4-inch tape. But on my Foley stage, if you ever come to visit me, which I would invite you, there's all these different pits. Sand pit, cement, dirt, tile, wood, so that whatever the actor's walking, whatever surface they're walking on, we have all of that on the Foley stage. In the beginning, I'll give you a little bit of history, there was a movie called Spartacus where they first started using Foley. It was back in the 30s. They had these scenes with huge scenes of knights in armor galloping in to begin a fight. And they didn't get a very good sound for the armor, so they were going to go back to Spain. They were going to go back on location to reshoot it so that they could get the right sound. But Jack Foley, who this is named after, brought a bunch of his buddies in from editorial, and they jingled their keys in their pockets to replicate the sound of the armor. Today we've gotten a lot more sophisticated, and we actually have like real armor. I wear it whenever I travel alone. I'm just bam, don't mess with me. Sometimes if we have to do rain, we can just if you wanted, we could go outside and I could just do some rain, like real rain. All right, here it comes.
Getting my butt. What does cheat mean?
Cheat means when you're not using the actual prop. When you're not using the literal prop, you're using something else. Like I can't have a real horse on my stage, but I could cheat the sound of it with these. Wow.
Isn't that a pleasure?
So if I don't have a real gun, and sometimes the bad guy will like point his gun at somebody and they'll rattle it in your face. Sometimes I'll use this for a gun.
Put your hands up! What are some shows and movies that you've worked on?
I've had the opportunity to work at Skywalker Ranch, so I did things like Raiders of the Lost Ark and Star Wars and Ratatouille and The Incredibles, Catwoman. I've done a lot of just live action, really serious movies like Schindler's List and Shawshank Redemption and 12 Years a Slave and a lot of movies that you've probably never heard of. Well, I'm working on Chucky. Do you know Chucky, the evil doll? It's a TV series now. It's actually a lot of fun. Foley-wise, it's a lot of fun.
How do you make the scary doll sounds for Chucky?
All right, you ready?
I think so.
Okay, here it comes. You want to see what prop is that I used? My magic gold dog. So every time Chucky runs, or if he does a turn, or if his eyes just go to the left or the right, that's this little gold dog saved my life. And he makes all those sounds for Chucky. I know, it's hard to believe.
His arm, it's gone.
I know, because I used him so much. I use this for the gun movement for the stormtroopers in Star Wars. A lot of times I have to do dog footsteps, so I'll use my hands. He's using grass, and like your dog, give him a little collar sound, and you put those two sounds together, and it sounds like you're listening to a real dog.
What's the hardest sound you've had to create?
Oh, there's so many, Cora. I think sometimes the hardest sound is a sound that doesn't make very much sound. One time I had to work on Apollo 13, which is a movie that took place in outer space where there's no sound anyway, but they squirt some Tang out into the atmosphere and it floats across the capsule, and they wanted to hear a sound for it. And it was really hard to come up with something that didn't make a real sound. Another time I had to work on a movie for a director called Lost Highway. The director was David Lynch, and he wanted to hear the sound of one of his characters who falls back onto a glass coffee table and cracks his head. And he wanted to hear the sound of it cracking from the inside out.
Ew.
Yeah, it was pretty gory, and I didn't know how to impress him because he was David Lynch. But I took a little tiny microphone, one of these, and I put it in my ear, and I started just chomping on some celery. And they recorded it with that microphone in my ear.
Ew. Ew. No.
Well, he loved it. Anyway, it worked.
This is so cool, and I hope I can see you again. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome, Cora. Thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
What are some
I'm gonna dust you off a little bit. Maybe this will help.
Oh yeah. Well, that's good, Cora. That's good.
I like salt. We're here in Cora's world. No. Oh my God, Emmy. I can't.
That was perfect. That was perfect.